Welcome back. As you may or may not know, I am known as Eli, the computer guy, and my current project is something called SiliconDojo.com. Basically, the idea of what if technology education was simply as accessible as running water. So we have self-study classes over there. We do Zoom classes, and also one of the things I do is one-on-one coaching sessions with my students to talk about their careers, their jobs, getting businesses started, figuring out their tech stacks, all of those types of things. And so, anyways, I get a lot of the same question whenever I do those coaching sessions. So I decided to do these types of videos to go over the questions that I get a lot so that you can sit here and watch these videos instead of necessarily doing a one-on-one coaching session. Anyways, we do those sessions every Monday, 1 through 5 p.m. If you're interested, you can go to silicondojo.com to sign up for a session yourself. So a big question that comes up is the whole question of whether or not you need to move in order to get a tech job. Or maybe it's not really a question. Maybe it's just a statement. You need to move in order to get a tech job. I think this is one of those curious things where, unfortunately, especially in the American society, we don't really teach our kids how our own society works, right? We teach them algebra 2 and trigonometry. We have them read all kinds of weird books, but they don't know how their 401k plans operate. They don't understand how our capitalist system works. And everybody's surprised when young adults are frustrated and confused, right? And so a big thing that you need to be thinking about, right? When you want to go out and you want to get a job in whatever job it is that you want to get, whether you want to be a computer programmer or whether, I don't know, you want to wash cars, or drive trucks, whatever. One of the big things that you have to be thinking about is that there has to be somebody that actually wants to hire you. Your job exists because a company sees a need for some particular, tasks to be performed. Ergo, they hire somebody to perform those tasks. So if you want to be a computer programmer, you need companies around you that want to hire computer programmers, right? If you want to be a truck driver, you need, people around you that need to hire truck drivers, right? Not only do you have to have the companies that are there, that are actually are willing and want to hire people, but you also need the economy in the area to be able to drive the demand for employees. So it was really interesting. I was talking to one of the students recently. Again, I have an international student base, and the place that they're from is poor. Again, it's one of these third world countries, and it's real poor. Real poor. Like, wow, right? So anyways, so one of the things that I was explaining to them is like, look, if your area is poor, right? The amount of money that I would spend taking my wife out for a dinner and a couple of drinks is their monthly salary in this place. One of the things you have to think about, right, is there enough money from the population in your area to actually support whatever job it is that you want to have, right? If everybody is poor in your area, there's most likely not a lot of extra money to hire AI consultants, right? If you're poor, if you're hungry, if you're desperate, the last thing that you care about probably is AI consulting services or whatever else. You're more worried about, getting food and transportation, basic education for your kids and that type of thing. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people miss is this whole idea, right? I'm going to go to university. I'm going to get this degree so I can get a job in X, Y, or Z, and I want to continue living in my hometown. So, okay. But, in your hometown, is anybody actually hiring for that job? Right, I think about this now with my wife and I are most likely moving to Miami, or specifically Miami Beach. So Miami Beach it's a different town than Miami. It's just right across the water. Anyway, it's very walkable. It's a great place. You should think about it. Anyways, we're thinking about going to Miami. And one of the reasons we're thinking about going to Miami is because we came here to Asheville, North Carolina, and the reality is nobody here really cares about Silicon Dojo. That's just the fact of the matter. They just really do not care. They're not antagonistic against Silicon Dojo. They don't try to kneecap Silicon Dojo. they just don't really care that much one way or the other. Right? And that's an issue. That's an issue. I'm in a 90,000 person town out in the mountains that has a pretty crappy airport, away from a lot of things. We're 2 hours to the closest city, Charlotte, North Carolina. The local population doesn't really care. We do not have a technology economy, basically whatsoever. And so that's one of the issues that I've run into, like with Silicon Dojo, is that it's just not really a viable environment to try to do what I'm doing. Again, I could come to a mountain town, and if the people in the mountain town were interested and they're actually supportive and not, and they wanted it, right? I could do something with that. But that's not how things work here in Nashville. All right, so that's one of the reasons we're looking at moving to Miami, maybe soon. Again, the area has about 7 million people. Again, going from 90,000 or 400,000 in our metro area here in Asheville to 7 million in the metro area in Miami. Not only that, it has an international airport that basically has a nonstop to anywhere you can have a nonstop to. There actually is a lot of good, interesting technology stuff going on there. It's just a place that is more viable to do what it is that I want to do, right? Actually make the business work out, because I think that's one of the things that gets missed by so many people, is that in our capitalist system, again, you need to have customers that want to purchase your product or service. Again, whether you're doing a hamburger stand or a vegan hot dog stand, or you want to sell computer programming, or you want to sell microcontroller design, or any of this type of stuff, you need people that actually want to hire you and are willing to pay for that service that you're going to offer. And what I see with a lot of folks out there is they're just simply in areas of the world where there's just simply not a lot of opportunity. Again, I was talking to another person, they're getting a degree, and that was an interesting thing. They're getting like a technology degree, but not a computer science degree. Oh, not even a cybersecurity degree. They're getting one of these other degrees. You know what they are. The other degrees. Like, I'm sorry. What does that degree even do? And that was the interesting thing. I sit there talking about it, and again, there was a lot of question about what that degree would even do, and then who in their particular area would actually hire them for actually having the skill sets of that particular degree. And it was interesting. So again, I tell everybody, go to events, go to meetups, go to events, schmooze. Don't ask me, ask people around you in your area, what's needed and all that. So I said, okay, give me your information where you're at. I pulled up Meetup, and two meetups popped up for their area of the world. And they both had, like, one of them had 4 people attending, and the other one had 5 people attending. And you sit there, and it's like, hey, you do not have a lot of technology going on in the particular area of the world that you're in. And so this is going to be something that you're going to have to consider with your career. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there. They're like, but Eli, buddy, I don't want to leave my hometown. I don't want to leave my hometown, right? My mommy's here, my daddy's here, my whatever. These people are here. This is, I'm country music, American country music. I don't want to leave where I'm from. But one of the things you need to be thinking about, right, is if you're in this area, and again, you want to do coding, you want to do whatever, design, and you're in this area, and there's no jobs. There's just no jobs. Very few jobs. And the jobs that they have might suck. Right? Again, here in Asheville, you can get a PHP developer job. Wow, you can get your 5 years of PHP developer experience. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-PHP. I actually like PHP. But also, let's be honest, 5 years of PHP experience isn't exactly going to get you to be able to buy a house now, is it? Right? So one of the things you have to be thinking about is you love your hometown. But if your area doesn't have the types of jobs that you want, doesn't have the career progression that you want, is it better for you to spend the next 5 years or 10 years in your hometown muddling the hell along, getting the best job that you can get, which is going to probably suck, moving up in that job, which probably isn't going to be very far, and in 10 years, where are you going to be at? But one of the things you can think about is, what have you left for 5 or 10 years, right? So to be a mid-level engineer, right? It's theoretically 3 years. When you look at mid-level, it's 3 years. Senior level is theoretically 5, somewhere around there, right? You can go from being a nobody to theoretically a senior level engineer in 5 years. And the thing is, if you get to be a senior level engineer, that's when you can start doing remote work and actually really be taken seriously. Right? If you can actually build things, if you can lead teams, if you can actually make sure that products get to market, get shipped out the door, right? When you have that level of experience, right? You got 5 years of node experience. Right? Think about that. That's something you can take back to your hometown and then be able to do remote work in your hometown at the salary level of San Francisco or some big city, right? Bringing that into your town where the salary level might be a hell of a lot lower. And so that's one of those things to be considering is like when you're sitting there and thinking about how to move your career forward, are there in fact actual opportunities there for you, jobs that you can get hired for? Now, I know a lot of people out there, they're like, but Eli, what about remote work? Right? We've been told for the past 4 years, remote work isn't the future, it is the now. And I keep trying to remind people, yeah, I also remember back in 2015 when collisions wasn't the future, it's the now. What are collisions? I haven't heard of collisions before. And again, what you have to understand with the media is not here to provide you honesty, right? The media is not here to enlighten you and provide you information that's going to make your life better. The media is here to just kind of scrape half a penny out of you as many times a day as possible, right? So if they find a trend that gets a lot of people clicking, gets a lot of views, they're just gonna keep hammering that trend home. And so again, we've had over the past 4 years since COVID, remote work, remote work, remote work. Anybody that doesn't believe in remote work is a moron. Now here's the thing. I remember not that long ago, anybody who didn't believe in collisions was a moron. What's a collision? So again, not that long ago, 2015, they were rebuilding office buildings. They were redesigning office buildings to have the most collisions possible because Steve Jobs, right, decided that collisions were the important things for corporations. So the collisions is where basically random employees run into each other. Maybe it's around the coffee pot, maybe it's around the water cooler, maybe it's literally going to the bathroom. They like modified where the bathroom locations were to make it take longer to get to a bathroom. Anyways, because the idea is when you go from point A to point B, there's more opportunity for you to run into people and to have random conversations, and maybe through those random conversations, you'll figure out the next $1 billion idea for the corporation. Right? And this was big. This is the open office spaces, crowding everybody into one 8-foot table and saying, "Yay, isn't this great?" Right? All that kind of stuff. That was the whole collision mindset, right? And so we had that. We had that for a long time. Collisions, 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 collisions. Until COVID happened, and now it's remote work, remote work, remote work, remote work, remote work. And again, I just want you to juxtapose those. So wait a minute. It wasn't that long ago. The offices were redesigning, their businesses were redesigning their office space to make it take longer to get to the toilet just so you would be able to collide with more people. But now we realize if everybody's at home in their PJs, that's actually the way to make things work better. And I think the issue that we're going to be running into is, again, remote work is fine. Again, it's called telecommuting. We've had telecommuting for 25 years. Since something called ISDN lines. Remember ISDN lines? 128 kilobits per second. Oh, wow. Blazing fast, right? So certain people could get, ISDN lines back in the day, and we had telecommuting. And that was the thing. Telecommuting was good for the sales force, for a lot of the marketing people, for some of the higher level executives, for the people that had to travel around a lot of the offices. We designed the infrastructure, the architecture to be able to support these folks. And yes, telecommuting makes a lot of sense. But here's the thing. Remote work for everybody is just kind of dumb. It's just kind of dumb. I'll say it. I'll say it. I will take the slings and arrows. There's problems with things like management, and I think it's very curious because people get snarky about this, but they don't really realize what the warning signs are. So again, I was in Miami. I was in Miami. I was actually at a really good AI meetup, a good AI meetup in Miami. Now there has to be something going on in Miami for me to say something good about AI. Anyways, I was at a good AI meetup in Miami. Anyways, I was sitting there talking to some of the people they're listening to, and they're talking about remote work and all that. And they're talking about that with like one of the big problems with remote work is that managers want people to be in the office so they can look over their shoulders and make sure they're doing quote unquote what they're supposed to. And the reason that they want that is because they don't know what their KPIs are. So, what KPIs are key performance indicators. Basically, these are metrics just to make sure employees are supposed to be doing whatever employees are supposed to be doing, right? So, if you're a garbage person, the idea is you should be able to dump 100 garbage cans per hour, right? Amazon warehouse is awesome. Probably too bad with too good with KPIs, right? They track you down to like the millisecond with what you're supposed to do, right? You are supposed to ship at least 75 boxes per hour. If you ship more, you get a bonus. If you ship less, you get five, right? Those are KPIs. One of the big issues, though, and this is real. This is a problem for modern corporate America. they don't they don't really know why you're there. Again, what is the KPI for many developers? What is the KPI for many people in the marketing department? What is the KPI? Like, what are the key performance indicators? They can say you're doing a good job, but most of it's just coming from feeling, right? Oh, I like this person. They're doing a good job. I don't like that person. They're doing a bad job, right? The reality is for a lot of these jobs, there are not KPIs. And they're not even sure what the hell the KPI should be, which becomes a very curious thing. And so the issue is why a lot of these companies want to bring people back into the office is they don't really know what the hell they're doing in the remote work. They don't have KPIs to be able to track them for what they're doing in the remote work. And so the idea is you bring them back in the office to hopefully be able to keep track of them. Why this becomes important, especially for students that are having conversations with people like me, is that one of the most important times for you to be working in office is when you're new to the career field. There's something in sociology called association theory. The idea is that you model your behavior based off of the people that you associate with. Right. And so the thing is if you bring people into one corporate environment, that corporate environment has a coherent corporate culture, then as you bring new people in, you're literally modeling the new people based off of that corporate culture that's been created for what's expected for work, what's expected for communication, what's expected for a whole bunch of different things, right? When you have people that are remote work late, when you have new people that are working remotely, and especially when it may be literally their first job, it is incredibly difficult to try to model those people when they're basically a Zoom away sitting at their own home, right? Having them be able to come in, talk with people, discuss things, collide. Remember collisions I talked about before. Have managers look over their shoulder. That is an incredibly valuable thing. And so I think what's happening right now with the whole remote work world is people are realizing, just like collisions, just like moving the damn toilets probably wasn't a great idea, right? Remote work for everybody also isn't necessarily the greatest idea. You now have this cohort of young professionals, right? So when COVID happened, you had these companies that were used to working together, and then they get dispersed to be on Zoom. But you already had a coherent company culture, and so even though when you disperse it to Zoom, again, things may not work perfectly, but they still work. As you start bringing in the next generation of employees, though, it becomes more and more difficult to actually be able to maintain that. So you have a lot of the companies that are realizing realizing that. And again, that's another reason for doing the whole, return to office mandates, actually be able to bring people back to those offices. And so you're a new person. You're a new person in a world of return to office mandates, also in a world of economic kerfuffleism. Now, I have been informed that we are not in a recession. Biden told us we're not in a recession. Trump is telling us we're not in a recession. We're being liberated. Oh God. Oh, I wonder how this is going to go. In 2 days, we get liberated. How are those tariffs going to go? Anyway, so we're told we're not in a recession. We're just in this weird time period where it's getting ever more difficult to afford houses. Right? We're in this time period where there's more and more and more layoffs. Again, you look at it over the past couple of years, tech companies have just been laying off left and right. And when they're laying off, they're not necessarily hiring, they're rescinding job offers, and the whole 9 yards. And so the issue then is if you're a relatively new person that doesn't have an incredibly solid skill set, and you're in an area of the country that does not have a lot of tech jobs that are around, trying to get work from home jobs that are actually going to be worth a damn is going to become more and more difficult. And so the thing that you then need to be thinking about again is that whole idea of, does it make sense to relocate? And again, with that, you might be able to come home maybe after not too long, right? You go to a large city, you go to Los Angeles, you go to DC, you go to Boston, you go to Columbus, Ohio. Again, I'm not biased on this. Omaha or Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln's kind of small. Anyways, you go there, you get a job with a tech company, get a real tech job. And one of the things you might find out is you might be able to move that into more of a work from home position as you go along. You go in as a junior level position, and no, you're going to go into the office every day and you're going to get smacked in the nuts, because that's what happens to junior level people, right? But then you move up, you move up the ladder a little bit. And then you get a little bit more leeway. You make sure to knock out your KPIs. You figure out what your KPIs are, key performance indicators. You knock the KPIs out of the park, right? And then you keep doing that for a little while. And you might find in a year or two that you can go to your boss and go, look, you see that I'm doing a good job. You see I'm a part of the team. You see blase, blase, blase. Can we move this into more of a work from home position so that I can be, again, with my friends, family, whatever, in my good old hometown? And so I think these are some of the things that you need to be thinking about when you go out there into your career. Again, it's interesting for me, with my wife and I. So I've traveled around the country a lot, but like my wife and I, we did the travel trailer thing for a year. So again, talking to my viewers, talking to my students, that started back in 2015. It was called Silicon Trailer. I was like, hey, I'll put this out there. If I talk with one person a month, it makes me feel like I'm doing something. Holy shit. There's some days I was talking to 3 people a day. I was like, what? Why? Anyways, but the thing is like when I went around, like I would talk to some people in Seattle, right? You're in Seattle, right? The advice that I could give in Seattle is going to be a hell of a lot different than the advice I was going to give in Rapid City. I love the Black Hills. I would retire to the Black Hills. I don't think I want to make a career in the Black Hills. Anyways, this place, South Dakota, Black Hills, South Dakota. Beautiful. You got to go there. But again, Rapid City, I think it's 100,000 people in the middle of like nothing, right? Again, the opportunities there are going to be different. Upstate New York, again, talking to people in Saranac Lake. I did some conversations. I talked with people from Saranac Lake. And when you're trying to do a tech business or whatever in Saranac Lake that has, God knows, 10,000 people, maybe, probably not even that, right? That's going to be an entirely different thing. And so that's one of the questions that you have to ask yourself is as you want to get into this career field, as you want to move ahead, where do you want to live to push your ball forward? Again, I think about this like with my wife. One of the reasons we're looking at Miami, and again, there's real considerations, right? So my wife had thyroid cancer years ago, had her thyroid pulled out. Here's the thing with hormones. Doctors really don't understand them very well. I'm just going to put that on the table and we'll just put that to the side. Doctors really don't quite grasp how hormones work very well. So the curious thing is, right? So one of the issues is, right? We moved to Asheville, North Carolina, and it doesn't really get very warm here. It rarely gets over 90 degrees, and so it's pretty moderate. So it generally doesn't get below 30 degrees. Generally doesn't get above 90 degrees. It's in a band in the middle, generally somewhere between like 60 to 80 degrees. Like a lot of our year is 60 to 80 degrees. Cooler, a little bit warmer, but not really hot. Anyways, one of the interesting things, my wife came here, and she's complained about the temperature like since day one. She's just, why the hell doesn't it get hot? And again, I was like, I don't know. It's a mountain. I don't know what the fuck. I don't. Again, weird spouse arguments you get into. But and there's a lot of other, but there's a lot of stuff that goes with it. There's like symptoms, and there's other things that were going on. And it was interesting. She was going through, she's looking at research, she's trying to figure out kind of what's going on. And what she found out is that the human body uptakes thyroid hormone differently depending upon the outside temperature. It uptakes thyroid hormone better when you're in a warm environment than it does when you're in a cold environment. Funny. She did not find that out from the doctors. No doctor bothered to tell her that crap. Right? And so again, like, for one of the reasons that we're looking at Miami or another warm place is because it will literally make her feel better. She goes to Miami, she goes to the warm, she literally feels better. And so that's one of the things that you need to be thinking about too, is like when you're thinking about moving, what is a good environment? It's not necessarily, I'm not necessarily saying go to San Francisco. I probably would argue don't go to San Francisco. Probably don't go to Seattle. Don't, maybe not go to Northern Virginia. It's not a big tech hub. But one of the things to be thinking about is like where can you go that fits a number of the requirements you need for a decent place to live? Again, affordability, walkability, if you care about walkability, the temperature, how friendly people are. Again, it's interesting. How friendly people are is incredibly different. You go to Seattle, there's something called the Seattle freeze. You go there and people don't talk to you. They just, and that's a weird thing. Like, if you're in the tech world, you can go to tech things and you can meet people, you can talk to people because you're talking about tech. If you're not like in that tech business world, it really, literally is called the Seattle freeze. And people just do not say that much to you. It's not a particularly friendly environment. Now, if you're an Aspie, you'll be like, yay! Thank God I found a place where people don't ask me how my day is going. Yay! Right? If you're more extroverted, that might be a bad thing. So that's one of the things you need to be thinking about too, is again, like what kind of overall environment is going to make you happy? Because that's one thing, like as you move forward in your career, the healthier you are, the more content, I hate to say happy, but the more content you are, the easier it's going to be for you to move ahead in your job. Again, think about this. Think about one person who basically, they go to their tech company, they get out of their condo, they walk down the stairs, they grab a cup of coffee, they go to their tech company. And let's say they're single. Let's say you have two people, they're single and they're young. So one person has like a 5 or 10 minute walking commute to the office as they grab a cup of coffee. The other person has a 1 hour each way grinding commute through some of the worst traffic in the United States. Now, here's the thing. Not only do you think about which one of these people is going to be happier in general during the day, but which one of these people do you think is going to do better in their career? Think about this. If I have a problem in my head, like if I'm leaving work, and I'm sitting there and I'm like noodling on a problem, like, oh, I don't understand how this works. And I go down and I go to the local bar and I get a couple of beers. I'm thinking about it, and then I go home and I boot up my computer and I do a little testing. I think about that. And again, we talk about compounding, right? They always talk about compounding interest. Think about compounding success. Think about every time if you left work, right? You just strolled and maybe you talk with somebody. Oh, you go to the bar, you go to the cafe, you run into somebody at work, and you're like, hey, you know this problem? Again, collision, right? And think about that. Right, that's how you spend your extra 2 hours a day, versus the person who has a 2 hour commute. They leave home and they have an hour to get to work, so they're already exhausted by the time to get. They're already exhausted and grumpy by the time they get to work, and then they leave work and they're exhausted and grumpy by the time they get home. So they've taken 2 hours of their day simply to drive in god awful soul sucking traffic, versus the person that took 10 minutes to walk and grab a cup of coffee and go. Compounding, how do you think those two careers are going to go? I think about this with the last corporate job I had. They were moving campuses, so I was hired to help move campuses. And so they had a campus that was close. I don't know, it was like 30 minutes away. And then there was a campus. Then they were moving to a campus that ended up being about an hour away from where I lived. And that was the thing. Like there were sometimes, again, when you're doing migrations, some days you work a lot, other days you get off at noon and nobody cares, right? Or 2 o'clock. And I just remember this one day, right? I got off at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a bright, sunny day. It was beautiful. Like, yeah, I'm going to go home and do all kinds of cool stuff. I get in my car. There was like a car accident on the interstate back home. It took like an hour and a half to get home. So it was a beautiful day, 3 o'clock in the it was new, it was springtime, birds were singing, and by the time I got home, I was absolutely and utterly exhausted. Right? Do you think that is a good environment for pushing your career forward? And so these are some of the kinds of things to be considering. Again, like with Asheville, North Carolina, it's interesting. What they tell you about Asheville, North Carolina, everybody knows. Bring your money, bring your job, and bring your spouse. This is true. Bring your spouse, right? Young people, it's very difficult to meet people here. It's just weird how our breweries are. We don't have bars. We have breweries. It's just a weird environment. But again, think about that. Think about what that's going to do for your career. Imagine, at the end of the day, you go to the bar or the cafe or the hookah bar. I don't care, right? Anyways, and you can sit down and you can meet young people of whatever persuasion you care about. And it seems like you're going to be a little happier and a little bit more relaxed when you're at work than the person that doesn't have those opportunities, right? And again, if you're at work and somebody gets stressed or you're feeling a little stressed, think about that. Like if your stress level is already to here, and then I don't know, something blows up at work, because it always does, right? That's gonna send you over the top. You're gonna lose your mind. Right? And if you lose your mind, you're not going to be doing your work very well. You're not going to be listening to other people. This is a crap. Where again, if you're pretty relaxed, you walk into work, right? You got that little condo downtown. You got a boyfriend, girlfriend, cat friend, whatever the fuck you want, right? And you come down, you grab a cup of coffee. You're going to the office. You're nice, relaxed. You had a good night last night. You got a good cup of coffee in your hand, right? You walk in. Hey, what's going on? Oh my God, everything blew up. Don't worry about it. That's why you hired me. I'll fix it up. No big deal. Da, 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 da. Right? Your stress was here because you didn't really have any stress. Everything's blowing up. Did your stress go up? Yeah, your stress went up. Your stress went up here. Right? The person that has an insane amount of stress, their stress went from here to here. They're losing their mind. Right? Your stress went from here to here. You gained the exact same amount of stress, but your level of stress was already so low. You go up and like, oh, okay. Hey. Yeah, can somebody put a pot of coffee on me? I think I'll need another cup of coffee. Let me solve this problem now, right? And think about that day over day compounding, how that's going to deal with your career. And again, you think about that with opportunities when you go to different places, get meetups, events, those types of things. Some stuff to consider. So anyways, there you go. There are some thoughts on whether you should move. Should you move? I don't know. It depends on what the opportunities are in your area. Remember, you can only get hired for jobs that actually exist. Yep, we don't teach the young people some basic concepts anymore. But in fact, you can only get hired for the jobs that actually exist. So in your area, if you don't have tech jobs, I'll put $5 on the table to say you're not going to get a tech job. Not only that, but you can only progress to the level in your particular area, right? Right? If you're in your area, again, here in Asheville, North Carolina, man, they're all about PHP development. You can get 5 years experience in PHP here, no doubt. Is that really what you want for your career in 2025, right? And again, like I said, with that remote work thing, Is it a possibility? Maybe. But again, you have the remote or the return to office mandates that actually do make sense. You may not like it. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it doesn't make sense. And we have whatever kerfuffle is going on with the economy. That's gonna be a crap show. And if you don't have events and things in your area, again, how are you going to meet and how are you going to schmooze with people? So if you go to somewhere else, right, they have job openings, they have the ability to progress, they have events where you can meet people. Again, when you do that, you think about where you actually want to live. Again, is weather important to you? Is socializing important to you? Is walkability important to you? What is going to give you a better life? And then how that compounds. And that's the thing is you have one 22-year-old that leaves college, goes off to a relatively decent environment for 5 or 10 years, they are going to be solid. They're going to come out and they're going to be solid. And if work from home still exists by that period of time, they will most likely be able to figure out an opportunity to do work from home or whatever and be able to go back to wherever they came from. On the other hand, if you have somebody that's just trying to muddle along, like they stay where they're at, I'm not going to leave my home for whatever reason. So they only get whatever jobs are available. They only get the progress that they can get in that particular area, right? Which of these two people do you think is going to do better at the end of the day? And what I would say, as somebody that's getting way too close to 50, what? I'm getting close to 50. Anyways, as I remember, like when I was young and, looking at people going to become a doctor. So doctor takes like 12 years, right? You go to college, you go to med school, you do this, that, and the other thing. Like the youngest you're going to be as a doctor is like, I don't know, 28 or 30 years old. Oh my God, that seems insane. Like Eli, you're talking about 10 years. Yeah, 30 was a long time ago. I was going to put this on the table. You will get to a point in your life where 30 was a long time ago. It's a whole different world. It was a world before social media. When I was 30, I did not know what Facebook was. I'm not sure Facebook really existed. I think it was still back in the .edu days of Facebook. And so that's one of the things to be thinking about. Is I know some of you, you're like, oh, 5 or 10 years. But yeah, but that's the thing is 5 or 10 years will go by. And then where do you want to be at 40? Where do you want to be at 50? Where do you want to be at 60? Where do you want to be at 70? So anyways, there are some things to consider. So with that, I have some self-study classes to create. Currently creating the Moon Dream AI self-study program. So Moon Dream is a computer vision. It's an AI model that allows you to do some cool stuff. So I'm actually working on that self-study class right now. I'm not doing that right now because I'm procrastinating because I'm doing this video. So let me go and do that particular series of classes, and I'll see you all later.